When I got the offer letter from Altius Maritime Logistics, it felt like everything I'd worked for had finally paid off. Fluent in Arabic, Urdu, and English, I'd built my career bridging cultures. I wasn't the guy with fancy degrees from Europe, but I had something far more powerful: connection. Real connection. The kind that wins contracts, earns trust, and smooths deals in the high-stakes world of Gulf shipping. My first day at Altius, I wore a crisp white shirt and walked into their shimmering Dubai office with nerves humming in my chest. The glass doors whispered open, and I stepped into a world of corporate gloss, soft-spoken executives, and echoing boardrooms. The receptionist gave me a hesitant smile. "Zaid Malik," she confirmed. "You'll be working with Mr. Craig. Mr. Jonathan Craig, the CEO. British. Polished. Known for efficiency and structure." I'd read about him. He didn't speak Arabic. Not even a little. Craig greeted me with a handshake so limp I had to resist checking if he had bones in his hand. He looked at my resume, then looked at me. "Interesting background," he said. "But remember, here, we keep things in English. Keep it clean, clear, and professional." I nodded. I had no issue with English. I'd lived in 3 countries. But I also knew that business in the Gulf wasn't done over emails and spreadsheets. It was done over coffee, conversation, and respectful Arabic greetings. But he didn't seem interested in all that. Within 2 weeks, I was handling some of Altius's toughest clients: Kuwaiti oil equipment firms, Saudi importers, even a logistics agency in Muscat. I'd speak to them in Arabic, switching effortlessly between dialects, ensuring no word was lost in translation. And it was working. Clients who hadn't replied to Altius in months were now calling me directly. One even sent a handwritten thank you letter in Arabic after I resolved a warehouse miscommunication in Jeddah. My team noticed. The regional manager, Lena, once whispered to me in the break room, "You're the first one they've actually connected with." But Craig? He didn't like it. It started subtly. During one meeting, I was explaining a minor contract detail to a visiting Qatari client in Arabic when Craig interrupted. "Zaid, please translate everything as you go. We can't have side conversations in languages we don't understand." The client raised an eyebrow, clearly insulted. I switched languages and translated politely, but the moment hung heavy in the air. Afterward, the client leaned over and said in Arabic, "He doesn't understand our ways. But you do." Over the next few weeks, the friction built. Emails from Craig started CCing multiple people on even the smallest client updates I sent. One time, I helped a Saudi partner renegotiate freight terms by explaining the cultural missteps we'd made. Craig's response? "Next time, stick to what's in the contract. Don't improvise." But what he didn't understand or refused to see was that language isn't just words. It's nuance. It's tone. It's trust. Then came the Riyadh deal. A multi-million-dollar contract with a Saudi medical equipment company. They refused to deal with anyone who wasn't fluent in Arabic. I led the call. 2 hours of intense back and forth, cultural pleasantries, legal details, all in Arabic. When the deal was signed, Craig called a company-wide meeting to celebrate. But in that meeting, he didn't mention my name once. Not once. Instead, he said, "We're proud of the team effort that helped secure this deal. Let's remember structure and professionalism win clients." Structure? Professionalism? That deal was saved by a joke I cracked in naughty Arabic about a Riyadh traffic jam. But apparently, that didn't count. That night, I stayed back late, looking over my desk full of papers, contracts, voice notes. I knew what was happening. Craig didn't like that clients preferred me over his polished suit and tie reps. He didn't like that I had something he didn't, a voice they trusted. But instead of learning from it, he was starting to shut me out. The final moment of this chapter came a few days later. We had a visit scheduled from a major Omani port official, someone I'd spoken to dozens of times on the phone. He didn't speak English fluently and always asked for me personally. I was excited. I had everything ready: documents in Arabic, presentation slides, even a little gift basket with Arabic sweets. But an hour before the meeting, Lena walked in, looking uncomfortable. "Zaid, Mr. Craig asked me to tell you he'll be handling this meeting himself. You don't need to attend. I was stunned. But the client doesn't even. I stopped. Lena nodded sympathetically. I know. I told him. But it's out of my hands. I sat at my desk, staring at the door of the boardroom as the meeting began without me. An hour later, the Omani official walked past my desk, confused. In broken English, he asked, "Why you not inside?" I stood up, smiled gently, and answered in Arabic. They said I wasn't needed. He shook his head. That's a mistake. A big one. He walked out. And so did my patience. I started making a plan that very night. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I knew they had fired me already, just not officially. And when they finally would, they'd have no idea what storm I'd bring with me. After I was excluded from that Omani client meeting, the message from Craig was loud and clear, even though he never said the words out loud. We don't want your kind of success here. But I wasn't about to make a scene. Not yet. I kept my head down, smiled when spoken to, and acted like everything was normal. But behind that quiet, polite mask, I was watching, listening, noticing every move they made to isolate me from the very clients I had brought in. The sabotage began like a slow poison. At first, it was subtle. Emails I sent to clients weren't reaching them. I found out later they had been rerouted through a new system. Suddenly, I was no longer CC'd in client updates or meetings I'd helped organize. Then came the Jordanian mishap. A long-standing electronics client from Oman was due for a contract renewal. They had specifically requested that I handle the meeting because they were not comfortable negotiating in English. I prepared for it, updated their file, created bilingual documents, and even arranged Arabic language tech diagrams. But the day before the meeting, I was told, "It's been reassigned." To whom? I asked. To Richard, Lena replied, hesitating. Richard was new. He didn't speak a word of Arabic. He didn't even know who the client contact was. I knew how this would end. And I was right. The client pulled out the next day. Richard fumbled the meeting, misread their needs, and offended the rep by speaking too fast and too casually. The Jordanian client emailed me personally. "We asked for you. What happened?" I didn't reply. I couldn't. I was no longer allowed to represent Altius. Instead, I forwarded the message to Craig with a polite note. This was the client's reaction after being reassigned. Craig didn't respond. But a few hours later, HR called me in. The HR officer, Muna, looked uncomfortable. She shuffled papers and avoided eye contact. "Zaid, there's been feedback that you're not fully aligned with the company's team communication practices." "What does that mean?" I asked calmly. "There's concern that speaking in Arabic without formal translation excludes your team members." I leaned forward. "You mean, I'm being criticized for speaking the client's language?" She flinched. "We're not saying that. Just, you may want to consider balancing things out." I nodded, smiled, and walked out. But inside, I was fuming. They weren't just sidelining me. They were preparing to erase me. That night, I started archiving everything. Every compliment from a client. Every chat message where I was thanked for solving issues. Every email where I was copied and praised. I saved it all. I created a folder named Legacy. Because when the moment came, and I knew it would, I wanted the full picture of what I'd done for this company to be undeniable. Over the next few weeks, Craig turned up the pressure. He had Lena take over my remaining accounts, claiming they were better managed in-house. He asked IT to monitor communication flow efficiency, which meant I had to get approval before sending emails to clients. He even had my desk moved away from the client ops team into the far corner of the floor near accounting, as if I didn't exist anymore. I began to feel invisible, but the clients didn't forget me. One afternoon, my phone buzzed. A Kuwaiti client I'd helped 6 months ago was in town and wanted to meet for coffee. We met at a quiet cafe off Sheikh Zayed Road. After some polite chat, he leaned in and said in Arabic, "Are you leaving that company? Everyone is saying something changed." I sipped my tea and replied, "Let's just say they're not interested in how I work anymore." He nodded slowly. If you ever start your own thing, let me know. We'd be happy to move. I froze. That was the first spark. The first time I realized, maybe I didn't need Altius. Maybe Altius needed me. Back at the office, things got colder. Craig announced a new policy that all external client calls had to be conducted in English, with another team member present. No exceptions. That's not practical, I said in the team meeting. Our Saudi and Omani clients, some don't even speak English fluently. Craig replied curtly, then they can hire a translator. This is a professional environment. The room was silent. I looked around. No one made eye contact. It was done. Craig had stripped away everything I was good at and twisted it into a problem. But while they were cutting me off from the company, I was quietly planting seeds for something bigger. I contacted an old friend from university, Amir, now a developer working in SaaS. We met for lunch. I want to start something small, I said. A firm that helps companies communicate across language and culture. You mean like translation? No, I said. I mean strategy, connection, trust, real human communication for international businesses. He smiled. You already have the clients, don't you? I grinned. I have something better, their trust. By the end of the month, the writing was on the wall. I was down to one account. No meetings. No calls. And then the HR meeting request landed in my inbox. Subject line: Final discussion. I opened the email, read the time and room number, and quietly closed my laptop. This was it. But they didn't know. I was more prepared than they could ever imagine. Spent months building trust with a high-profile Saudi client. They made it clear they only wanted to work with him. Fluent in Arabic and culturally aware, Zaid prepared everything: bilingual documents, cultural touches, and an Arabic-led presentation designed to impress. But just a day before the scheduled meeting, Zaid received a terse internal email from CEO Craig. Your presence is not required. Richard will lead the presentation. Zaid was stunned. Richard couldn't speak Arabic, had never dealt with a client, and lacked the cultural sensitivity the deal required. As expected, the meeting was a disaster. The Saudi delegates felt ignored and disrespected. That evening, one of them privately messaged Zaid. We trusted you. They treated us like numbers. The next morning, Zaid was summoned to HR. Sitting across from him, the HR manager read a pre-written script citing reasons for termination. Failure to adhere to communication protocols. Unapproved use of non-English language. Lack of alignment with management expectations. In other words, he was being fired for speaking Arabic. No recognition of the contracts he had secured, the crises he'd defused, or the relationships he'd nurtured. Just a cold, quiet exit. Zaid didn't argue. He didn't shout. He simply nodded, gathered his things, and left with dignity. But before he walked out, he did one thing. He sent a thank you email in Arabic to every client he had served, expressing gratitude and leaving his personal contact. One client replied within minutes. If you're no longer there, neither are we. Zaid had lost his job, but he had something far more powerful: the loyalty of every client they took for granted. After being unfairly fired, I took time to reflect, hurt but not broken. I contacted a few close clients, not to poach them but to say goodbye and thank them. One of them, a major Middle Eastern investor, was stunned and demanded to know why I was let go. When I explained, his tone changed immediately. You are the only one who understood us, our language, our culture, our goals, he said. Within days, word spread. Clients I had worked with personally, who had once trusted me with multi-million-dollar contracts, started calling, messaging, and even showing up in person at the office asking for me. The CEO panicked. He hadn't anticipated this kind of fallout. He tried to patch things up, but the damage was done. Several clients canceled meetings and deals saying, if he's not there, we're not interested. One of my biggest clients offered to invest in me directly. Start your own firm, he said. We'll bring the business. With their backing, I launched a boutique consulting company focused on cross-cultural business strategies. I hired a small team, including 2 other bilingual consultants, and we hit the ground running. Within 3 months, my new firm had signed 7 of my former employer's biggest clients. Revenue was growing fast. Word traveled across the industry. There was a new player in town who actually understood the clients, not just their money. The CEO who fired me tried to sue, but all my contracts were clean. He had fired me without cause, and now he was losing everything: clients, deals, and reputation. What he didn't realize was that in business, language isn't just words, it's trust. And I had earned it. This was no longer revenge. It was success, earned a hard way. After weeks of running his own agency, Amir's business was thriving beyond expectations. Word spread fast among Arabic-speaking clients that the man who understood their needs and respected their culture was now independent. Former clients of the old company were not only leaving, it was a full-blown exodus. Even some employees from the firm reached out to Amir, hoping to join his rising agency. Meanwhile, the CEO who fired Amir, Mr. Jenkins, was in a crisis. Revenue plummeted, and long-term contracts were canceled. Desperate, he tried to replicate Amir's success by hiring translators, but nothing worked. Clients didn't just want language. They wanted trust, experience, and heart. And Amir had all 3. One day, Amir received an unexpected call. It was Mr. Jenkins himself, asking for a meeting. Amir agreed just to see how far things had fallen. At the meeting, Mr. Jenkins tried to mask his desperation, offering Amir his old position back, this time with a higher title, better pay, and full control over the Arabic division. But Amir refused. With quiet confidence, he looked his former boss in the eye and said, "You didn't just fire me. You underestimated me. And now your clients have made their choice." He walked out, head held high. Amir's company soon became a leader in multicultural client services, and his name spread far beyond his industry. The man once fired for speaking his native tongue had become the voice of a revolution in business inclusivity. And the CEO who let him go? He faded into corporate irrelevance, just another boss who failed to see the value of understanding.